Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time to talk about the buff to Spider-Punk. Now, I already had Might at rank 3. I already thought he was very, very good. He just wasn't amazing in Battlegrounds. He's very good in Battlegrounds, just not amazing. They made the buff. Watch this. We're going to talk about all the things you need to know to play Spider-Punk, place him on the tier list, the whole thing. Watch this, though, and you tell me if you think he's now incredible in Battlegrounds. This note set, there's nothing that's really going to be helping him, nothing like seriously hurting him. This is a rank 3 Onslaught. Watch how big of a mistake. I mean, I'll admit, I was sick. I was laying in bed while doing this. Kind of like makes sense. You see the gameplay. We've already used the stun evade. Then we got up our physical vulnerabilities. The flow on this guy is phenomenal. We're going in and throwing this, and I'm just going to totally mess this up. I should not have played it this way. I did, and watch how good the results still are. I have messed up the heavy. I have messed up the special 2. Onslaught has completely blocked it. I've only got 3 ruptures up from those. The SP2 really should have been 4 if I had played the minigame right, if I hadn't just totally flubbed it. But using Spider-Punk, right, in Battlegrounds, he starts with 150 crowd members. Don't worry, we're going to talk about all this stuff. I just wanted to set the table for you to see this, because I know that this is like a comeback story, MCoC comeback story for the ages. Supposed to be a noodle, came through, wasn't really a noodle to begin with, just misunderstood, then gets the buff. And he's now like bonkers. Rank 3 Onslaught, that's not a Mystic Champion. That's not like his target, whatever you want to call it. 50,000 score, flubbing the SP2. Now, we're going to do this. This is the side quest, and we'll look at the signature ability after these 3 fights, because there's parts of his kit that I think are really important we can show off in these fights. And then we'll place him on the tier list, and then we're going to look at the really great fight from him, really showing off a lot of what he can do. He's very tanky, too, against the elite bounty Sasquatch there at the end. So here we go. Okay. So one of the things we're showing off here, right, is a Nihilus in his rod. And that can be tough. Like if you're great at intercepting, fantastic. But you can utilize the parry stun mechanic, right? Very similar to Elsa, Bloodstone, and Kate Bishop right there. You can see it's now on a cooldown, right? And you can utilize that to get your openings. It's not just against a Nihilus. It's like so many fights. I think about like the Destroyer, just champions like this, right? Nodes, champions with these sorts of mechanics. You can utilize that. And then this is why I love the flow on him, because once you do that, once you utilize that mechanic, it goes on cooldown. You can see it in the upper left-hand corner. Not right now, but after we use it, it'll go on cooldown. And then you have like a safety mechanism where if you are going to get hit by a light or medium while you're dashing, essentially when you are looking to get an intercept, you will do the passive stun again, right? You don't want to do it when they have a bar of power, because it's not going to save you from a special, but you're going to get a passive stun again. And then that's going to place the physical bundle vulnerabilities on the defender, which plays massively into his damage source. It's one of the things they increased, part of why his damage is so much more bonkers than it already was, at least in shorter fights. It was already great in longer fights too. Now, in this fight, one of the things we're going to show is the taunt off of the heavy. And then also see that one passive in the upper right-hand corner? That's an encore passive, right? There's some reasons why his Sig is really nice, and we'll talk about that here after these fights are over. We're also using the heavy. The second hit of the heavy lands that taunt. Between the encore passive, increasing the likelihood of the defender to throw that special, right? Also, as the Sig gets going, you have another chance to get the rupture. And then the taunt. You have incredible control over the fight. You can see we're going to go in for this SP2. I did nail the minigame. I'm still getting better at that. The SP2 doesn't normally hit that hard. That's part of the node, so keep that in mind. But you already saw the damage is phenomenal. So this isn't really like changing things that much. It's just changing the source of the damage. It's not usually the SP2. It's the ruptures off of them, especially if you get up those 2 physical vulnerabilities. So like I said, the flow is fantastic. You get your passive stun evade mechanic. You then go for your intercepts. You've got some really nice safeguards there for you, call it, right? Like where you're going to get another passive stun in case you mess up. You just can't go willy-nilly though. You can't play like an insane person. So got to be pretty smart about it, because the AI might back up on you. You don't want to do it when they have a special. You're going to get up those physical vulnerabilities. You go to your special 2, you hit your mini game, you get your relics up, you profit, you win, you move on. So again, power control, right? Like Adam's got that passive power gain. We can't be parrying him all the time, right? Once he gets up his sovereignty buffs, he's going to, I don't know, he does something to the ability accuracy of parry. I don't even know, right? Very complex. It's not important. But what you're seeing here is the safety with which we could just go those intercepts. So look, we've got our 2 physical vulnerabilities up. You get up to 4 You get up to 4 ruptures from the special 2. You're just winning the game. That's only 4 ruptures. You can get up to 8. It's got a stack of 8. And we'll quickly look at his signature ability now too. And I'll go ahead and answer this because in case it's not clear, he's not recoil friendly. He has immunity to, I think, concussion and to rupture, right? That's not going to help you run recoil. He's got no heal and you want to throw your specials. Don't do it. Now, his signature ability, it's great. And I don't think it's as necessary to have him at Sig 200 as it was before his buff. I think that's another really great change. That being said, I've been putting Sig stones in. I've brought him up to Sig 80. I've pulled him, I think, 3 times now. I've gotten very lucky. So I feel great about that. And I am going to cover the bullet points of the signature ability. There's obviously timestamps in if you want to just jump straight because you've already read it and you get it, you can move forward. But the bullet point 1 is when the opponent finishes special attack, you get that encore passive. It's going to do a couple things. One is it's going to increase the likelihood, you see 70% for them to throw that same special. So it's not a full-on taunt. And it can make it a little bit tricky if you're like, I really want the opponent to throw the special too. Okay? I am going to get out a showcase eventually here, hopefully very soon, on Spider Punk. And I've already used it against Absorbing Man. It is doable. You can do it. It takes a little bit more thought in your play style there and a little more manipulation of the AI, but it's very, very doable. The other thing that it's going to do, and you can see this is bullet point 2, for each encore passive active, the opponent's attack rate and special attacks is reduced by 20%. Right? And that's just at Sig 80. I think this gets up to like 26, 27, 30%. You think about it, you can stack these, I believe, 3 times. Yeah, it says right there, max stacks of 3. You're reducing this by like 60, 70% on their special. Additionally, he's placing so many debuffs, you're expecting to inequity. He becomes a very, very tanky little spider, unusual for the spider class. I really enjoy that. And then last but not least, and this is another reason why people thought you really needed to have him Sig 200, I'm not going to continue to put 6 stones into him now because I'm pretty happy with this rate. Inflicting an encore passive when an encore is already active. You just saw my fight against Onslaught, and I talked about how much I messed up. And when I show that in the showcase, I'll really go through how much I messed up. But essentially, I let him throw the special 1 first, and then I pushed him all the way to the special 2. What I really wanted to do was have him throw his special 1 multiple times, and I would get an additional rupture from that, and then I could explode them all via my SB1 with thanks to the ruptures, and then of course the physical vulnerabilities actually has some nice closing damage now. You're still going to go to the SB2 more often than not, but the SB1 can help you close a fight now. It's truly beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and place him, look at his place on the tier list, and then I'll show you that last fight where we really talk through everything about him. All right, now there's his place on the tier list, definitely in the scorching tier. Because he doesn't have any of those resistances like bleed or poison or shock or anything like that, no huge energy resistance or physical resistance, I don't see him moving up to the tier above all. He doesn't handle evade, doesn't handle miss, doesn't handle auto block. Okay, that's all the stuff he doesn't do. But you just saw everything that he does do. And I'm going to show you this fight against Sasquatch coming up. He has a great synergy with Prowler as well. You go ahead and just take a look at that. It's not worth spending a ton of time in this video on it. But this is a champion that's good in war, right? He's got that evade mechanic, and he has the safety with his intercepts. He has great control over a fight with his passives on his encores. I use him frequently on lane 5 in like tier 3 war at 4 BGs to even handle nodes that are, yes, they're going to purify his debuffs, but he's got so much control over the fight, and his damage is good enough, even with the ruptures getting purified, that he's got control over the fight. He can get those fights done against the Destroyer and all the champions that people like to place there because they really play into those nodes well. And then you saw how good he is in questing, right? The versatility of it. Again, control over a fight, being tanky, saving you items, that's a big deal. As I said, Campo and Allison showed how great he was already in long form content. And then this buff makes him a phenomenal Battlegrounds attacker. Phenomenal for me. I love having him. He's a blast to play. Phenomenal design and the flow on this guy. And I think that's something that I want to talk about. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we move into the Sasquatch fight. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Just kind of put this all together. Okay, this is that bounty fight, right? And it's got the aggression regeneration, Bane of Damballa, dazed and confused. The one that's really going to trip me up, and you're going to see it, and the fight's going to take a lot longer due to it. It's that Crimson Rage, where you want to have like a bleed on the champion, something like that. The Sasquatch had 460,000 health. Now watch, we start off with that evade, and now I'm just going to go and I'm going to be looking for my intercepts. We've got the physical vulnerability up. We can only get 2 of them max. You can heavy to refresh them. So that's a really important part of keeping that up too, because as your opponent has power and things like that, you're not always going to be able to just willy-nilly intercept. You can see I'm going for it. Right now, I should have just used my my parry. I didn't. That's fine. So I'm not playing that great. Keep that in mind as we watch through this fight, right? Because it's about to really, really pick up. We're going in. We're going to throw our special 2. And you watch the damage of this. We now have 5 ruptures up, and he is just starting to tick, tick, tick. I mean, remember, 450,000 health. Look at this health bar just going down. You can use the passive stun off of the evade to help you get around mechanics like an unstoppable. And I want to stop it right now. I know I've done a lot of talking because I really wanted to explain how he works. This Sasquatch, even with the healing, the regeneration, even going unstoppable, even with me misplaying a few things there, right? Like on playback, I can see some stuff I could have done better. He's already down to only 30% health. Think about how quickly that went by. Very, very, very fast. When this champion doesn't technically, on paper, handle unstoppable at all, it's his control of the fight that helps him have more utility than it appears he does on paper. It's pretty wild. Like, you kind of almost have to experience it for yourself. We've got those 3 encore passives up now. So if we were to get hit, you know, we should be doing just fine. Now, I threw the special 1. If I had gone to my special 2, this fight would now be over. There was no ruptures up to explode or anything like that. And that's the only reason why this fight ends up taking longer and longer. You can tell I'm kind of like lost right now. This was a little early on in my play, and I'm a lot at just full forthrightness, but I thought it was such a good fight to show his control of the fight, how his utility is significantly more than it would appear that it is, because you can use that parry, stun, evade mechanic for your benefit for so much more than just getting in a passive stun. Although a passive stun in and of itself is pretty darn good. So here we go. Yeah, and that's Spider-Punk. I love him. He's great. I think he's a great example of how in 2024, we're basically in 2025, Kabam can make a relatively straightforward, easy to read, fun to just pick up and play, and a difficult to master, but easy to just get started champion. They nailed it with this, and the buff just made him great in Battlegrounds too. As usual, let me know what we think we got right. Let me know what we think we got wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.